Sensory overload. That's the best description I can come up with. The moment I stepped into David's basement, I was hit by a wall of static noise, flickering seizure-inducing flashes of gray and white, and a howling high-pitched wail. The only thing keeping me from slamming the door shut and legging it was the harrowing sight of David, a maniacal grin resting on his grotesquely raw-boned visage. I guess the shock of his sickening appearance paralyzed me long enough to remember the $5,000 he'd promised me. "Woods," he yelled, jumping up and down bizarrely. "Get in here." Stupefied by the surreal nature of it all, I found myself unable to move, let alone string together coherent thoughts. David kept spasming back and forth to the erratic flashes and discordant static buzz, half naked and quite obviously on something. When he noticed me edging away nervously, a look of realization manifested on his face, and he quickly grabbed a remote, shutting down the madness. "Sorry about that," he said, staring at me fixedly. "It helps me focus." "Focus?" I asked, trying my best to avoid his incredibly unnerving gaze. Yeah, he said energetically. "Look, I'll explain, just come inside. The walls have ears. Eyes too, and faces, but I'm more worried about the ears." I shuffled inside the dim basement room cautiously. He was, how do I put it, in a state. I hadn't seen him in a month or so, and I was taken aback by the extreme deterioration he'd undergone. It wasn't just that he was skinny, because he was, but it was like the bones underneath were protruding through the pale skin. Man, he said, lighting a cigarette. "Do I have something for you?" He slumped down in what I assumed was a chair, now camouflaged under a pile of assorted clothes, grinning widely. I quietly scanned the place for any illicit shit, but even if it had been right out in the open, I doubt I would have been able to spot it. The place was in a state of complete disarray, like he'd gone full-on berserk in there or something. "Look," I swallowed deeply, "I don't know what you've gotten yourself into, but I shouldn't even be here." He threw his head back and laughed. "It's cool, man," he said. Cool. I'm good, brother, can't you see that? Better than ever, fucking A-okay. And you can be too." He grabbed something from under the pile of clothes, and held it up. It was a small cylindrical vial, containing some vaguely blackish liquid. He licked his lips, and signaled for me to take it. I shook my head, and took a step back. "No fucking way," I said. "What is that shit?" He started laughing again, but it gradually turned into uncontrollable coughing instead. I watched in horror as he more or less vomited up a disgusting glob of thick mucousy liquid, the slimy substance slowly dripping down to his chest. "It's the signal, brother," he said, wiping remnants of the green-brown mucus from his mouth. "It can't be explained, but it's all you'll ever need. I swear, man, it's like eating the flesh of an angel or something. Fucking out of this world." "I don't know, man," I said, eyeing him concernedly. "You don't look so good. You sure you don't need help?" "Some people tell me that I need help," he sang, winking at me expectantly. "Some people can fuck off and go to hell," I laughed. "All right, I trust you. But this shit is all backwards, isn't it?" "What do you mean?" he asked, shaking the vial erratically, the contents swirling hypnotically within. "Well, I should be paying you, not the other way around? It's like a drug trial or something." He threw me the vial. "Very off the fucking books, though. Can't say shit to anyone. That's why it's gotta be you, Woods. I can't trust no one else with this. These people don't fuck around." "And the 5K? I asked, holding the vial up to my eye. "Here," he said, handing me an envelope. "Half now, half if you don't fucking die within a week." "Die?" I asked hesitantly. "Fuck that shit, man. You telling me it isn't safe? I'm fucking with you," he laughed. "This shit will change you, though, know that. They told me it'll open parts of your mind you didn't know existed. You'll come out the other side like a brand new person. It's like sprouting a second brain or something." I let the vial rest between my thumb and index finger, eyes instinctively are drawn to the lethargic figure of David. I wasn't seriously considering this, was I? $5,000 is a lot of money, granted, but it's not worth your life. It wasn't worth turning into whatever David had become. I swallowed deeply and felt doubt rising in my mind like bile up my throat. How long does it last? He just stared at me like I'd said something mind-bogglingly stupid. "Forever," he said matter-of-factly. "You ain't ever coming down from this trip. But that's a good thing, man. I've never felt better. Never felt better." That's the last thing I remember him saying. He must have said something else, right? Some reassuring thing or other. some explanation as to what was awaiting me on the other side. But I can't remember anything else. Just the vile feeling of the lukewarm liquid down my throat, then the big black void of nothingness. I didn't feel much for the first couple of days. Just a mild headache, like the feeling of static in the back of my head. I don't know if you've ever thought about that? That static is a feeling? It's like a low hum, a persistent crackle, a buzzing ache. I guess it doesn't translate well. You know it though, if you've been there. If you felt it. If anything, I'd say I felt like I was having a death hangover. Like I'd died, and returned somehow, and was suffering some afterlife withdrawal or something. Noise bothered me, light bothered me, taste bothered me, touch bothered me. Nothing felt right. Wherever I was, whatever I was doing, I felt like I didn't belong. That I was a stranger, a pariah, an alien life form. Creeping paranoia and dread. The third day was a mess. I don't remember much from it, so I have to refer you to the journal. Ah, yes, the journal, I forgot to tell you about that. It's the strangest thing. I suppose David must have given it to me? It wasn't mine, I'll tell you that much. Never seen it before. A black little thing, with a tiny pencil hanging from it. I can't even remember opening it, but every page is filled with my handwriting all right. Date unknown, state unknown, day 3. Can't focus worth of shit. Everything flickering just out of sight. Sounds not sounding right, like coming from anywhere inside my head. Fucking walls closing in on me, gotta stay hidden from them. Things in my ears too. The hair on my eyes. Can't focus worth of shit. Thoughts are too loud. Not my own, I think? Did I just think that? I open my mouth to let them out, but they crawl around in there with teeth of flesh and skin. Not ready yet. See you soon. Can't focus worth of shit. Crazy shit, right? You haven't heard anything yet though. I remember days 4 and 5 only vaguely, like watching them unfold from outside myself in flashes of episodic madness, all jumbled together to form some incoherent mess of a movie. But I feel them inexplicably, vividly, unfiltered, and pure. The world had different colors. I could smell them clear as day. Gray, formless, dull, lifeless people wandering around as they mattered. Here's a news flash for you, they didn't. In between the cracks of reality you could see them spilling out, piece by piece, organ by organ, body part by body part. A face and an eye, a fleshy, meaty iris staring back. I think I'd better refer you to the journal once more. Somehow I make more sense there. Date obscure, state of hyper-imaginative, day nonagon. Foregone are any hints of doubt and uncertainty. For now, I stare into the beyond and accept it as part of the very fabric of existence. I feel like weights have been lifted, I feel like Sisyphus free of the boulder, and I feel like the final puzzle piece that's been lost to me since birth has finally slid into its rightful place. In the beyond there are agents, strange creatures of intelligence and raw brutality, violent shimmers that move between us and the void undetected. They know, that I see, or sense, thus they beckon me to join them. I don't think I will. I don't think it's safe. But they watch me. And listen. The walls have ears now. Eyes too, and faces, but it's the ears that worry me. Written on the bottom of the page, in crude, messy handwriting. I'm trying to find ways to cope, but I ain't fucking around with a gauge or rope. I felt good. I felt great. I felt like I'd feasted on purity. Eaten the flesh of an angel. Thoughts weren't just thoughts anymore, they manifested as constants of true or false, either as real or unreal. To see through the veil, man. I've never felt better. Yet, there were issues with the side effects. The agents. As I got increasingly lost and infatuated in absorbing the beauty and complexity of everyday reality, the agents became ever more aware of me. Horrible beings they were, like from the collective nightmares of a 1950s lunatic asylum. You can't really describe them with human language. It's not so much that they're indescribable, but maybe too describable? I'll just cop out and show you the journal entry instead. Date null, state void, day invalid. Flesh for bone, bone for the flesh, the agents are in everything. Faces in their eyes in their faces, mouths lined with flesh, and flesh lined with mouths. I invited them in, out of curiosity, out of neglect for human existence, out of a feeling of sweet self-destruction and delicious masochism. They breed in our filth, in our waste, in our minds, and copulate within us in ways so sickening it defies explanation. Gnawing at me with their skin teeth, flapping and squelching, hairy patches rubbing against hairy patches. I shouldn't have done it. It's what they want, isn't it? To let them in? To let them through? Who are they? Who made this thing? How do they get out? On day 6 I snapped out of it. Not instantly, but slowly, like a dream will fade throughout the day. I felt changed, like David said I would, but not in a good way. Not in a beautiful way. Not for the better. But in a grotesquely perverted way. As day 6 turned to day 7 I realized I hadn't eaten or slept since I consumed the signal. I spent 3 hours staring at myself in the mirror. I couldn't recognize myself. Not just because I was literally a pallid sack of skin and bones, a gaunt ghoul dressed in a skin suit staring back at me through bloodshot eyes, but also because it wasn't me. I swear, that thing I'm wearing isn't me. The blue-black lips on my reflection didn't move, but I kept talking to myself in another man's voice. "Peel it off now, why don't you?" I said, without actually saying it. "It has served its purpose." "Rotting from outside in," I answered, without actually answering. "The time is nigh." "Who's there?" I said. This time the cracked, lifeless lips moved. "Who am I talking to me?" "It interferes still," I said, lips remaining motionless. "Not far away enough. Not yet ripe." I can't recall more of the conversation. I'm sure it went on for a while, but at some point I collapsed on the floor, convulsing in unimaginable pain. I remember the pain though. Vividly. It was like my insides tried to push their way to the outside. Like my brain tried to squeeze its way out of my eye sockets. Like my muscles were searching for a way out through every pore in my skin. I regained control briefly. Enough time to rush down to my car, hazardously swerving past hazy vehicles, formless people, following an amorphous road laid out like pulsating cyst-ridden intestines before me. I felt nothing and everything at once. No pain, but unyielding torment. No heartbeat, but ceaseless machine gun throbs. Somehow I made it to David's place in one piece, crawling inside on limbs that were only vaguely mine anymore. I tumbled down the stairs to his basement, slithering the last few feet into his dusky room. "David?" I coughed. "David, are you here, brother?" No answer but the answer of nothing. My eyes were failing me. I could see behind me, then in front, then behind me again, like the flick of a switch. Behind me there was a wall, but the wall had ears, and also faces, and eyes. In front of me was David, or what was left of him anyway. He was spread out on the floor, and I mean that quite literally. He was face down, body split down the middle dead center, and forced open like some corpse cocoon. Muscles and sinew and bones and organs split into halves, gallons of blood encircling the macabre spectacle in an extremely satisfying oval and puddle. I felt fear like I'd never felt it before, present not only as an all-consuming sensation, but also in a very tangible shape and form. As I lay there sobbing and writhing in agony I started talking to myself without moving my lips again. "There has been a birthing," I said without saying it. "We are one free." I'd been neglecting the obvious for far too long, but I realized in that moment what was happening. Not the full extent of it, of course, but the very basics. The fundamentals, so to speak. I stumbled to my feet, staggering over the remains of David, and into the bathroom. The light was on, flickering erratically as was befitting the current ambience of unimaginable horror, and I stared at myself, which was definitely not myself, in the mirror. I let my fingers trace the back of my head, feeling the protrusions and crevices, identifying them as I went along. Eyes, soft and bulgy and round. Nose, a slimy cavity, nothing more. Mouth, teeth like skin, skin like teeth, lips quivering, tongue like a long limber leech. I turned my head slowly, watching in the mirror as the face on the back of my head came into sight. I talked to myself again, but this time I saw the lips moving. I wish I'd never seen those lips moving. "It is nearing the end of the tuning," it said. "It is almost at one with the signal. I don't know how many days I have left. I'm guessing maybe 1 or 2 before it claws its way out of my back, whatever it is. I've considered my options. They aren't plentiful. Most of them involve me dying horribly in some way or another. Will it help though? I keep asking myself. I don't think it will. I think I'm far beyond. Far into the beyond. A warning then, is all I can leave behind. It's simple enough, don't do it. Don't be tempted. Life imitates horror. Horror imitates life. The signal makes both happen simultaneously, and it ain't pretty. In closing, I'll leave you with this excerpt from the last page of my journal. It seemed a fitting note to end things on. If you ever see me again, know that it's not me. I died in these pages somewhere, consumed by a parasite of my own choosing. Date conundrum, state of, day in between. Life happens. That's all life is. A series of happenings. You can't control it can't control you, you're both just passengers along for the ride. Who steers this vehicle then, you ask, stupidly, I might add? In the end it doesn't matter. In the end it's just the end. You came into this life afraid, and you will leave it afraid. All that happens in between are just stages of fear, defined only by what frightens you. We are husks. Hollow and empty, as proven by our choices, by our actions. We deserve the void. Deserve to be replaced. Our time was now, but now is gone. A fleeting moment, uncared for and woefully neglected. What awaits is no better, no worse. It's nothing. Just another nothing. The signal is aligning.